So, I have a story to tell y'all, and it's not a happy story. I'm sorry about that. But I have to tell it. So, here goes. I spent New Year's Day traveling in a van full of my friends to Atlanta to go to the Passion Conference. It's the largest gathering of Christians anywhere, 50,000 people. And it's just this really cool experience because you get to worship with some of the most popular Christian artists, and then you get to listen to some of the most dynamic preachers speak about human suffering and our brokenness and what it means to serve one another as brothers and sisters in Christ all around the world. Then we would break off into groups and we would get to talk about things on a more personal level. To me, it was one of the best weeks I've had in a long time. But it was also really super challenging because I'm not exactly an extrovert. Like, I like hanging out with people, but 50,000 people is a lot. And I'm short. And when you're all trying to get somewhere at the same time, and then people are taller than me, and it's overwhelming. So, yeah. Basically, point is, I spend a lot of time walking from place to place with a bunch of other people, and I didn't like it. So, I would, stick my hands down in my pockets. Also, it was cold. It was really cold. Stick my hands down in my pockets to keep warm. And I would look down at the ground, see where I was going, and then I would just go really fast as I could, to get where I needed to be. And usually that was fine. Usually there wasn't any problem with that. But one night, we were on our way to our groups, and it was really cold. I think it was the coldest night that we had while we were there. And the jacket I was wearing was not very heavy. I think I was just wearing a hoodie. And I remember that I had my head down and my hands in my pockets, and I was going down a flight of stairs. And at the bottom of the flight of the stairs, that's when I heard a voice. And I looked to my left to see where the voice was coming from. And through, people's legs, I saw that there was a person sitting on the ground. It was a woman, and she was sitting on a blanket, and she was holding a baby. And next to her, on her right side, there was a little girl who was huddled kind of under her arm. And I heard the woman say, "Please help us. We don't have anywhere to sleep tonight. Please help us." And I didn't stop. I didn't stop. I kept walking. And at the time, I justified it because 50,000 people there. Surely somebody would stop for her, right? Somebody would do it. Didn't have to be me. But I could have helped her. I didn't have much. I certainly didn't have a place for her to stay, and I certainly didn't have enough money to give her so that she could find a place to stay. But I had like $20 in my wallet, and I had some snacks in my backpack, and I had a jacket and a scarf and gloves and a hat. But I didn't stop because I was cold and I had somewhere to be. And the part that breaks my heart the most is that I was at a conference about healing the broken and serving the unserved and reaching the homeless and the hurting, and I ignored the homeless woman and her 2 small children. I put my head down and I shoved my hands in my pockets and I kept walking because apparently it was so much more important to me that I get to where I was going and I get inside so that I could get warm than it was for me to stop and take care of people that actually needed my help. How much more of a testimony would I have if I had stopped to help that woman? What kinds of things would people say about the God that I serve had I stopped to help her? And what kinds of things are people saying or not saying about our God because I failed to help that woman when I had the means to do so? Here in our little small town of Niceville, we don't have like a giant homeless population. I have never seen a homeless person camped out on the side of the road. I have never seen homeless people begging for money. It just doesn't happen. But it happens in other cities all over the world. But even if we don't have homeless people or like an orphanage that we can go visit, we all know people who have needs. And not just like spiritual needs, but actual physical needs. Everybody knows somebody who is poor in spirit, or somebody who just needs a little helping hand every now and then. There are kids at schools all over the world who can't pay for their lunch every day. There are kids at schools all over the world who can't afford to go to school every day. There are kids who just really need someone to notice them and be their friend. There are people at nursing homes who never get to talk to anybody. There are people in all walks of life, all situations, all over the world, who just need to know that somebody thinks they are important and worthwhile. There are people everywhere who need to see a practical representation of God's love for them. Who's supposed to care for those people? Who is supposed to meet those needs? Because if it's me, I'm not doing it very well. I mean, who has time for that, right? Can we really call ourselves followers of Christ if we don't take care of the widows and the orphans. James 1:27 says, "Religion that our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and keep oneself from being polluted by the world." Proverbs 21:13 says, "Whoever shuts their ears to the cry of the poor will also cry out and not be answered." Proverbs 22:2 says, "Rich and poor have this in common: the Lord is the maker of them all." What would it look like if you and I looked for opportunities to truly care for other people, like to take care of them? What if you cared more about taking care of people's needs than protecting your reputation or getting somewhere on time or getting out of the cold or whatever? What if we cared more about people than our insecurity or our stuff? How powerful could that be? We all see people every day who need help. Maybe they need a hand with something. Maybe they need a favor. Maybe they need somebody to eat lunch with them. I don't know. But this week, I have a mission for you. I want you to find somebody who really needs to see the work of God. And I want you to help them. It doesn't have to be anything big and fancy. Just look at yourself and what you have available, and try to see how you can use that to help somebody else. Maybe that means helping a friend understand their math homework. Maybe that means bringing an extra sandwich at lunch. Maybe that means inviting a friend over for dinner or church. Or maybe it's something else. What could happen if we all did that? Not just me and whoever is listening to this video. But what if we did it and then other people saw us doing it and then they did the same thing because they see us doing it and they just think it's that cool? What if we all took a moment out of our lives to actually look people in the eye and figure out what they truly need? How many people do you think would want to follow the God that we serve if we actually practice what we preach?